In the past decade, inflation and the cost of living have become central issues in the global economic landscape, affecting citizens from high-income urban centers to low-income rural areas. This investigative article delves into the core mechanics of inflation, its triggers, and the compounding impact it has on household expenses, quality of life, and long-term economic planning. At its root, inflation is defined as the sustained increase in the general price level of goods and services in an economy over a period of time. It is typically measured by the Consumer Price Index, CPI, or the Producer Price Index, PPI. While modest inflation is considered a normal feature of healthy economic growth, rapid or persistent inflation erodes purchasing power and can lead to social and political instability. One of the driving forces behind current inflation trends is supply chain disruption. The COVID-19 pandemic severely disrupted global manufacturing and distribution channels, creating backlogs, material shortages, and logistical bottlenecks. These interruptions caused the prices of basic commodities like food, fuel, and housing materials to skyrocket. Even after the acute phase of the pandemic ended, the ripple effects persisted as the global economy struggled to recalibrate. Energy prices have also played a pivotal role. The geopolitical tensions between Russia and Ukraine, as well as strained relations between oil-producing nations, led to surging oil and gas prices. Because energy costs are embedded in nearly every industry, from transportation to production, higher fuel prices have amplified inflation across the board. Households face rising utility bills, and businesses pass increased operational costs on to consumers. Wages, paradoxically, have not kept pace with inflation in many regions. In the United States, for example, real wages, adjusted for inflation, have stagnated despite nominal increases. This mismatch places pressure on working-class and middle-class families who find themselves paying more for groceries, rent, transportation, and healthcare, while earning only marginally higher incomes. In developing countries, where safety nets are limited, inflation hits even harder, sometimes pushing millions below the poverty line. Housing is one of the most prominent components of rising living costs. A combination of high demand, low inventory, and speculative real estate investment has led to exorbitant home prices and rent hikes. In major cities like London, New York, and Sydney, the average household now spends over 40% of its income on housing alone. Meanwhile, younger generations struggle to enter the housing market, and homelessness becomes increasingly visible in affluent and impoverished societies alike. Food prices have seen a steep ascent due to climate change, transportation challenges, and increased fertilizer costs. Droughts, floods, and erratic weather patterns have led to lower crop yields and volatile food supplies. For example, the global price of wheat surged after major exporters experienced production issues. Consumers now face higher prices at supermarkets, with essentials such as bread, eggs, and milk experiencing double-digit percentage increases in many countries. Healthcare and education have also become more expensive. In the U.S., medical care inflation far outpaces general inflation, with high insurance premiums, prescription drug prices, and hospital bills contributing to financial stress for millions. Similarly, tuition fees have ballooned, saddling students with lifelong debt and forcing many to delay life milestones such as home ownership and starting families. The impact on mental health and societal stability cannot be understated. As inflation eats away at disposable income, people report increased anxiety, depression, and family stress. Communities are also seeing a resurgence of labor activism, strikes, and protests, with workers demanding higher pay and better working conditions. Governments are under pressure to introduce fiscal policies to cushion citizens from the rising cost of living, but responses have varied in efficacy and intent. Central banks, such as the U.S. Federal Reserve and the European Central Bank, have responded by raising interest rates in an attempt to cool inflation. While such measures can help temper demand, they also increase borrowing costs for consumers and businesses. This leads to higher mortgage rates, reduced investment, and a potential slowdown in economic growth, sparking fears of recession. Long-term solutions to inflation and living costs must include structural reforms. Investments in sustainable energy can reduce dependency on volatile fossil fuel markets. Strengthening local supply chains and food systems can buffer against global disruptions. More equitable tax policies and enhanced social safety nets can protect vulnerable populations. Policymakers must also rethink urban planning and wage policies to ensure a dignified standard of living for all. In sum, inflation and the cost of living are not isolated economic phenomena, but multifaceted crises with deep roots and broad consequences. They affect not just wallets, but the very fabric of daily life. Without bold, coordinated, and compassionate action, the crisis will continue to widen inequality, strain public trust, and threaten long-term economic resilience.